Hello everyone, let us today continue our discussion which was on foliation and lineation. So before going to today's topic, let us first see what we have discussed in our previous class. So we have already learned what is foliation, and after that we have also discussed about cleavage, its types, and what are the how are the cleavage related to strain, and how we can estimate strain from the cleavage. So today we will be basically discussing what is the layering and how it is seen in different kinds of rocks like phyllite, schist, and gneiss. So, to start with, at first let us see how different kind of rocks form in the Earth's crust. So here in this left hand side we can see this figure shows what is called a rock cycle. So this rock cycle explains how the rocks are getting transformed into different rock types in this Earth's crust, and through this process different rocks are getting formed. So if we see here this gray line, this represents the Earth's surface. So any kind of rocks, we have three kinds of rocks basically, which are called igneous rock, metamorphic rock, and sedimentary rock. Any of these rocks, when they get uplifted, they come out of the surface and they form what is called an outcrop. So outcrop, as you remember, we have seen some outcrops in the Delhi Ghat region. So these outcrops gets slowly weathered due to wind, rain, and sometimes due to glacier also, and it's after weathering they get eroded from their place to and transported to some new places and gets deposited there. So these outcrops, after weathering, erosion, transportation, and deposition, they form what is called the sediment. And these sediments, they get again buried under the earth's surface, and due to compaction and cementation they form rocks, and these are called the sedimentary rocks. And after that, as more and more sediments are deposited over the sedimentary rocks, they get deeper burial, and their temperature and pressure also increases as they go below and below the earth's crust. And slowly the sedimentary rock, they get transformed, their minerals gets transformed to new minerals, their texture changes to new textures, and that lead to formation of total new kind of rocks which are called metamorphic rocks. These metamorphic rocks, they can again bury deeper, and they can lead to formation of new kind of metamorphic rocks from the original metamorphic rocks. And sometimes, like we have seen in the plate tectonic setting, that the subducting plate that goes below the other plate, after that it gets buried in the mantle, and slowly it gets heated and melted, and that leads to the formation of magma. And this magma comes the crust and comes out, and they get solidified either inside the crust or they can come out to the surface. If they are solidifying inside the crust, they will form intrusive igneous rock, and if they come out to the surface, they will form extrusive igneous rocks. So this kind of igneous activities will lead to formation of island arcs or the continental arcs. So these are the things which we have already also seen during our plate tectonic discussion. So these processes will continue in the earth's crust, like upliftment of this sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous rocks, and again their erosion, weathering, and again burial, and like that formation of sedimentary rock, then metamorphic rock, and again igneous rock. This process is what is called the rock cycle. Now from this, one clear thing we have seen is that in different temperature pressure regime we have different kinds of rocks. First we have the sedimentary rocks, which are formed at a relatively low pressure temperature just below the earth's surface, and as they are buried deeper and deeper, as the pressure temperature increases, they get transformed into metamorphic rocks. And if they get more heated, and if they go to mantle and they start melting, they get into transformed into igneous rock. So if we see the pressure temperature range of this, then we can see in this right hand side figure how different kinds of processes take place. When the temperature is up to 200 degrees centigrade and the pressure is roughly up to 300 megapascal, this particular region in the left corner of this figure shows what is called diagenesis. So diagenesis is the process by which these sediments get transformed into sedimentary rock. So this is the place where we get this sedimentary rock. As the pressure temperature goes above 200 degrees centigrade and above 300 megapascal, then metamorphism slowly starts, and this metamorphic rocks start forming. So at the initial stage, we have what is called a low grade metamorphic rocks, and as the pressure temperature slowly increases, say the temperature is above 300 degrees centigrade, at a pressure of say 200 megapascal, even at a temperature of nearly 150 degree centigrade, low grade metamorphism may start. So if we consider a line here at 200 megapascal, then we can see that intermediate grade metamorphism start at around say 250 degree centigrade. So like that, uh, for different pressure regime, we can see how the temperature and pressure changes leads to increase in the grade of metamorphism. After low grade metamorphism, we have this zone of intermediate grade metamorphism, which can range from 600 megapascal to 1000 megapascal, and which has a temperature range of say 300 degrees centigrade to 500 degrees centigrade. Similarly, after that we have high grade metamorphism. So if we consider say high grade metamorphism at 200 megapascal pressure, then it will continue up to a temperature of say nearly 700 degrees centigrade. And after this high grade metamorphism, the rock again starts melting, and this leads to the formation of igneous rock. So here we can see how the different kinds of processes are limited to different pressure temperature range in this particular plot. Now let us come to the relationship of the rock cycle with the foliation. So if we recollect, in our previous lecture on foliation, we have come across cleavage. So in the definition of cleavage, we have seen that it was a secondary fabric element formed under low temperature condition. So here in the definition itself, we see what is called a low temperature condition. This means that the cleavage is formed in the diagenesis region. It starts forming, if we remember, if we try to recollect about the disjunctive cleavage. So disjunctive cleavage are formed in the initial phase, and that will be formed in this 0 to 200 degrees centigrade and below 350 megapascal pressure. So this is in a sedimentary environment, and after that, as the pressure temperature increases, this space cleavage slowly gets more and more closer, and they gradually transforms into continuous cleavage. And in that continuous cleavage, we saw that it will finally lead to formation of the slaty cleavage. So slaty cleavage was forming at a temperature of 250 degree to 350 degree centigrade. So slowly we go into the lower grade metamorphism. Slaty cleavage are formed in the low grade metamorphism. So now we can understand why we are discussing this metamorphism here while discussing the cleavage. So slowly, as the pressure temperature increases from low grade to still higher pressure temperature, the metamorphic rock, they gets buried into deeper parts of the earth, and due to gradual burying, their composition and their fabric elements, they will be transformed, and new kind of metamorphic rocks will be formed, and those will be in the intermediate grade of metamorphism. After that, if it still continues to vary, then it will still transform into high grade metamorphism. So in this gradual transformation from low grade to intermediate grade and intermediate to high grade, we will see that the rock will be converted to phyllite, then schist, then gneiss. So this layering will be formed due to gradual increase in pressure and temperature as the grade of metamorphism will increase. Now let us try to understand this metamorphism in little more detail. So we know that rock is an assemblage of mineral. So in metamorphism, what happens? The metamorphism occurs in a high pressure temperature environment. So these particular minerals which are present in a rock, they become unstable as the pressure temperature increases, and they either break or start reacting, and a new set of minerals will be formed. So this leads to the formation of a new rock. So let us see this left hand figure here. Let us consider a pressure of say 100 megapascal. Now if we keep increasing the temperature here, so we will see that first at a temperature of say 150 degrees centigrade, we will enter into a red box here, and in this red box what we see is a zeolite. So what is this zeolite? Zeolite is actually a assemblage of mineral which are stable in this particular pressure temperature environment. Now, as the rock undergoes gradually more higher temperature, then this zeolite becomes unstable. New minerals start forming, and this is called albite epidote hornfels facies. So in this facies, the rock will be having a different set of mineral assemblies. After that, if the temperature increases above 450 degrees centigrade, we reach to what is called the hornblende hornfels facies. Then likewise we get the pyroxene hornfels facies and then the cyanidine facies. So we see the cyanidine facies will be stable only after 800 degrees centigrade. So we will not get the cyanidine facies minerals in the 400 degrees centigrade. This way, as the rock gradually undergoes metamorphic transformation, the mineral assemblages in the rock keeps changing. A new set of mineral assemblages. Next, if we increase both the pressure as well as temperature, then instead of going in a horizontal line, we will go in an inclined line. And here we will see that from zeolite, we will reach into this particular region where it's written prehnite pamphylite. After that, we will go to this green schist, and then we will go to the amphibolite, and then we will go into the granulite. So here we get into other kind of phases. These are prehnite pamphylite, green schist, amphibolite, and granulite. Similarly, if the pressure is very high, say 800 megapascal, and the temperature is say 300 degrees centigrade, then we get into this blue schist phases. And in a very high pressure as well as very high temperature, say we have a pressure of 1400 megapascal and a temperature of more than 800 degrees centigrade, then we will get into this eclosite phases. This kind of phases will be available in the tectonic settings where we have collision boundaries like in the Himalayas. So from the pressure temperature diagram, you can see that different mineral assemblages are stable at different pressure temperature ranges, and as the rock undergoes changes in the pressure temperature, depending on at what pressure temperature the rock is, the minerals in the rock also will keep changing. So if it is at a pressure temperature of green schist phases, it will have the minerals of the green schist phases. Now let us see what is happening in the phyllite. When the metamorphic conditions reach the lower green schist phases, so lower green schist phases means at the beginning of this green schist phases, the clay and illite in a phylitic rocks transform into mica and chloride. So these minerals clay and illite are gradually unstable, and they are getting converted to mica and chloride. And after that, if the rock occurs in an anisotropic stress field, so what is the meaning of anisotropic stress field? If we have a stress field where all the three axes are not equal, so one is the maximum stress axis, one is the minimum stress axis, then it is called an anisotropic stress field. So in such a condition, the phyllosilicates will grow in a strong preferred orientation, that we have seen in the case of cleavage also. If we have a high stress axis, then the phyllosilicate will grow in a inclined to that maximum stress axis. And if the pressure slowly keeps increasing, if the stress becomes stronger and stronger, then this phyllosilicates will be perpendicular to the stress axis, and here we used to get the slatic cleavage. So in phyllite also we have very strong anisotropic stress field. In that case, the phyllosilicate grow in a strong preferred orientation. This rock which is formed, they will have a strongly aligned fine grained mica, and this is called the phyllite. And the orientation which forms, this leads to the formation of a foliation which is called a phylitic cleavage, and this rock will have a silky luster. After this, if the rocks are buried into a deeper level, then the pressure temperature of the rocks further increases, and this leads to the formation of new mineral assemblages, say in the middle green schist phases. Here coarser grained mica becomes more stable like biotite, and as the biotite kind of micas develop, the rock gets a darker color also. And since the pressure is increasing, the anisotropic stress field also increases, and that leads to the strong preferred orientation of the biotite or the newly developed mica. So even the preferred orientation is stronger than phyllite, and we have darker color, and this kind of rocks are termed as schist, and the foliation thus developed in this rock are termed as schistosity. and exact mineral assemblages in this schist depend on the exact pressure temperature condition at which these schist rocks are formed. As the pressure temperature of the rocks keeps increasing, the rock goes into the even higher grade of metamorphism, and at this higher grade of metamorphism, rocks develop some kind of compositional banding. So due to this compositional banding, the rock will have alternate layers of dark and light colors. Now this light and dark color bands are formed due to segregation of felsic and mafic minerals in the rock. The light color layers are rich in feldspar and quartz, whereas the dark color layers are rich in amphibole, pyroxene, or biotite. These are the dark color minerals. So this kind of layering which are formed, this is called a nisosity. Now how it develops, suppose we have an initial rock which is an alteration of sandstone and shale. Shale will have more kind of clay minerals, and this clay mineral, as we subjected this rock into higher pressure temperature, they get converted into mica, and this leads to the formation of mica schist, whereas the sandstone which has a quartz or feldspar, they will lead to the development of the quartzite. Now this mica schist and quartzite, they will form the alternate bands, and this will lead to the formation of the compositional bands. Secondly, if the rock is subjected to intense shear, then this necessity is created by what is called a transposition. So we have discussed about this transposition in the granulation previous section in our previous lecture. Let's recollect this. We had two kinds of cysticity, S1 and S2. S1 was from some previous deformation, and S2 was a new deformation. So the new deformation is in the direction perpendicular to the S2. In this direction, there is some compressive stress. So there is a bending in the along the S2. Now, as this new deformation intensifies, the quartz slowly segregates from the mica, and this leads to the alternate bands of quartz and phyllosilicates. And as the pressure keeps continuing and the stress is higher, then these phyllosilicates will completely orient perpendicular to the stress, and this will lead to the resultant fabric where only S2 cleavage will be left. The original S1 cleavage is totally eroded. There is no S1 cleavage left in the new rock. So this is called transposition. So this is how the whole texture of the rock as well as its mineralogy may change. So initially this rock had some mica as well as some quartz, but slowly the rock has only quartz in some zone and mica in some other zone, and this mica also may get altered into some, let's say, from muscovite to biotite due to increase in stress. So the third way of formation of the dissociity is through metamorphic differentiation. So metamorphic differentiation involves all the processes that occur during metamorphism that lead to gradual transformation of the metamorphic rocks into phyllite and schist and needs. This includes the alignment of the mica and changes in the mineral compositions due to reaction of the previous minerals, and sometimes the mineral grows in size due to compaction. So these are the processes that may occur within metamorphic differentiation. Now here we can see how this phyllite, schist and gneiss actually looks. In phyllite we have already discussed that we have a silky lusher. So this rock will look like a silky rock. After that the alignment will be more strong, and this will lead to the formation of what is called cystosity. In cystosity it is almost like a thin sheets, and here the mica also got transformed into some darker mica, say biotite. So this leads to the formation of the darker kind of rocks, and after that the gradual banding has occurred of the banding of the light and dark color. This lead to the formation of nisosity. So this is how in the third figure we can see how a gneiss will look in the field. So from this we can see how the layering occurs, and this layering, which are like parallel arrangement of the this planar fabrics, these are called uh, foliations. So today we have learned about a new kind of foliation which is from due to layering, and that is the formation of phyllite, then schist, then gneiss. With this I will conclude this talk today. and I will request you to ask me any queries if you have. Thank you.